In 1881, the Rational Dress Society formed in London with the goal of liberating women from the bondage of their corsets. The Sisters of the RDS established a worldwide network of sleeper cells and underground nodes that still to this day come to life in times of need to combat the forces of irrationality everywhere. Abigail Glom Lathbury and Maura Brewer are the heirs to that proud history, a responsibility that they do not take lightly. Although her modesty belies it, Glom Lathbury is the third reincarnation of Amelia Bloomer, a fact revealed to the RDS by way of divine prophecy. Brewer's origins are more humble but no less rational. Her great-grandmother's second cousin's roommate invented the union suit in Utica, New York in 1869. Naturally, when Glom Lathbury and Brewer turned 18, they were inducted into the Rational Dress Society's central administrative offices. They found common cause in their passion for all things judicious and resolved to modernize the operation. The first order of business was to move the RDS headquarters to a garage in Palo Alto, California. And now, if you'll join me for a warm welcome for the two members of RDS who are here to give their stunning talk this evening, Abigail Glom Lathbury and Maura Brewer.
Welcome. We are here today as representatives of the Rational Dress Society. For the past 2 years, members of our organization have disseminated Jumpsuit, the ungendered monogarment for everyday wear. Thank you. Thank you. Jumpsuit embraces the differences between individuals and comes in 248 unique sizes. Jumpsuit aims to replace all clothes in perpetuity, asking, what if you never had to pick out an outfit again? As part of our ongoing research, we have assembled the following historical overview of revolutionary and utopian dress. We will begin by setting the stage.
On July 21st, 2016, Ivanka Trump delivered her address to working women on the floor of the Republican National Convention. In this speech, Ivanka, dressed in a light pink sheath, exhorted women everywhere to vote for the people's champion, promising that her father, #1 dad Donald Trump, would usher in a new era of prosperity, bringing back American manufacturing jobs which had gone to factories overseas.
On the following day, she tweeted this image, encouraging her followers to shop Ivanka's look from her #RNC speech. The tweet linked to the aforementioned light pink sheath sold on Macy's.com for the low price of $138. Macy's announced, "Own the room in a sleek, sophisticated sheath dress from Ivanka Trump, exquisitely detailed with tiny embellishments and a modern slit at front." Visitors to the site would have noticed further down that the dress was mysteriously labeled imported. Further research concluded that the dress was made in a factory in China.
We, the American people, have been sold a bill of goods. This pink dress is a sign of things to come. We were promised sleek sophistication, and in response, we took out our wallets. But the thing we bought, though it looked like salvation, was in fact the vehicle of our own subjection. This is the cultural context from which we, the members of the Rational Dress Society, present a primer in revolution.
As long as there has been fashion, there has been counterfashion. Counterfashion is the practice of dressing as an expression of political and sartorial solidarity. Throughout modern history, brave individuals have come together to fight oppression, to resist co-optation, to express their mutual alienation and outrage. These people have adopted symbolic dress as a way to express their feelings of anger, sadness, and disgust when mainstream political channels have failed. In times of trouble, we often look to the past, seeking guidance from the wisdom of our ancestors.
The year is 1790. The sans-culottes have taken to the streets, calling for the head of the king. The sans-culottes were a group of French revolutionary workers who comprised the majority of the Revolutionary Army. The name sans-culottes, or without culottes, was derived from the rejection of the silk knee breeches worn by aristocrats in favor of the working man's plain trouser. At first, the trouser was purely practical, but as the revolution intensified, nobles who wanted to appear sympathetic to the workers' cause adopted the trouser in an act of solidarity. After the revolution, the ethos of the sans-culotte lived on in the wider democratization of menswear. In Paris, the days of the silk knee breeches were over, now that everyone from bankers to bohemians adopted the habit noir, the simple black suit, as everyday uniform.
(1850), upstate New York. A group of Christian separatists called the Oneida Community started an experiment in radical socialism. The Oneidas believed in the abolition of all private property and called on their fellow communards to live like the apostles in Jerusalem, sharing all goods and resources and owning nothing. The Oneidas believed that marriage was a form of ownership over women, so they practiced group marriage and their children were raised in communal nurseries. This logic of collected effort extended to women's dress. The Oneidas invented a costume they called the pantalette, which was accompanied by a short haircut that minimized the differences between the sexes. By adopting pants, modestly covered with a short skirt, female members of the community were able to engage in the physical labor required to maintain their large commune.
Meanwhile, 1850, upstate New York, a group of feminists, led by Amelia Bloomer and Susan B. Anthony, adopted the bloomer as the official garment of women's liberation. Feminists believed that fashion was a conspiracy to render women dependent on men by restricting their movements, thereby cultivating a slave mentality. Rendered unable to work by heavy and cumbersome Victorian garments, women would have no other choice except to make their living through marriage. In Susan B. Anthony's words, "I can see no business avocation in which women in her present dress can possibly earn equal wages with man." In 1851, Amelia Bloomer announced her intention to wear the bloomer in the temperance journal, The Lily, and published the pattern for women to copy. The garment consisted of pants gathered at the ankle and covered with a short skirt. Despite several years of the bloomer craze, throughout the 1850s, social mores won out. The visibility of discernible female legs in public space created too much of an uproar to be practical.
Over the course of the 20th century, the jumpsuit, named for its use in parachuting, is mobilized by artists and designers as a signpost of the future. It evokes both the practicality of the working class and the utopianism of the space race, the promise of a reality unshackled from material concerns, in which we will be free to pursue our inclinations within a society of equals.
In 1919, Thayat started designing his most famous piece. The tuta, which Thayat called the most innovative, futuristic garment ever produced in the history of Italian fashion, was an early example of what we now know as coveralls. intended to revolutionize fashion and create a modern, particularly Italian style. He launched the design in 1920, publishing the pattern in the newspaper La Nazione with the goal of making the tuta accessible to all. Sleek and elegant in its design, the tuta represented the promise of a more rational future in which attractive, simple clothes would prevail.
While Fayette was espousing the virtues of the tuta in futurist Italy, the constructivist artist Varvara Stepanova was developing her own language of revolutionary dress. By the 1920s, she had turned to garment design with the aim of producing a new kind of clothing suited to Soviet ideals. Her constructivist designs cast off the oppressive, aristocratic fashions of the past in favor of a garment that privileged utility and equality. She rejected a design language that prioritized bourgeois subject positions, clothing designed around traditional ideas of what it means to be a woman or a child, for example, in favor of clothes that would be designed for an activity, work, or play. Influenced by her work as a constructivist painter, her designs integrated geometric patterns and bright colors, transforming the body into abstract compositions that de-emphasized gender.
Starting in 1909 and reaching its peak in the 1930s and 1940s, the kibbutz movement saw thousands of Jewish immigrants undertake an experiment in collectivist living. Each kibbutz was a small, self-governing community in which property was owned collectively and shared among members. The kibbutzim were agrarian and utopian in their ideals, organized around the Marxist mandate from each according to his ability to each according to his need. Since kibbutzniks owned no property, garments were distributed via a central office. Kibbutz wear was practical, with women wearing short trousers for work, plain brown sandals in summer, and heads covered by kerchiefs or straw hats. Differences between men and women were minimized, both in dress and in occupation.
In 1943, white servicemen in Los Angeles violently attacked Mexican-American youths in a series of events dubbed the Zoot Suit Riots. Zoot suit was a term for a style of men's suiting that rose to popularity among African-American, Chicano, and Filipino communities. The garment's hallmark was its exaggerated proportions. Malcolm X, reminiscing about his youth, described the zoot suit as a killer-diller coat with a drape shape, reet pleats, and shoulders padded like a lunatic's cell. During wartime, the zoot suit had been singled out as unpatriotic, an extravagant waste of fabric and tailoring. The U.S. War Production Board went so far as to make a statement condemning the zoot suit, calling for the excess material to be reallocated to the war effort. The zoot suit became a symbol of rebellion in ethnic and working-class communities, both a sign of alienation and a declaration of self-determination within the dominant social order. This outward display of resistance provoked a violent response, and over 150 men were injured during the riots. Following the riots, the Los Angeles City Council passed an ordinance prohibiting the wearing of the zoot suit within the city limits.
The 1960s saw a resurgence of counter-fashion within the context of civil rights, the anti-war movement, and the sexual revolution. Designed by Rudy Gehrenreich in 1964, the monokini was never meant for mass production, but was conceived as an act of political protest against a mainstream culture that objectified and fetishized the female body. The monokini is considered to be the first topless swimsuit designed for women. The design consisted of a standard black bottom attached with two thin halter straps around the neck. The garment extended from the upper thigh to the midriff, leaving the breasts uncovered. Gehrenreich designed many experimental unisex garments, but the monokini remains his best known. Of his work, he said, "To me, the only respect you can give a woman is to make her a human being, a totally emancipated woman who is totally free."
The Black Panther Party was a political organization in the United States active between 1966 and 1982. The BPP combined Black nationalist ideology with socialist politics. Their 10-point program included the right to defend the Black community from police brutality and access to education, housing, and employment. Members of the BPP adopted a common uniform that consisted of a black leather jacket, black beret, black pants or miniskirts, and boots. The use of the color black derived from the 1960s Black is Beautiful movement, a celebration of the African American body and a call for positive representation. The beret references both the military uniform of the Cuban revolutionary Che Guevara and the Green Berets, an elite army unit. By design, all elements of the Black Panther Party uniform could be purchased at local department stores, making it readily accessible and affordable for all community members.
In the early 90s, a group of Italian youths donned white coveralls and took to the streets. They called themselves the Tutti Bianchi, or the Disobbedienti. These men and women were members of the precarious workforce, part-timers and freelance workers, members of the service industry without steady contracts, retirement funds, or union representation. Their white garments were a gesture to a past gone by. Unlike the blue coveralls of the old working class, they were white to signify their ghostly status, the invisible and forgotten victims of deregulation. By the early 2000s, the Tutti Bianchi began to accessorize their white coveralls with layers of padding and football helmets, both to protect themselves from attack and in an appropriation of riot gear, an ironic mimicry of the spectacle of police repression. Their actions peaked in 2001 at the G8 summit, where one member was killed by police. The movement disbanded, but the garment lives on as a symbol of resistance. On the Tutti Bianchi, member Robert Boyd reflected, "We're wearing the white overall so that other people will wear it. We're wearing the white overall so that we can take it off someday."
The history of counterfashion is as long and rich as the history of fashion itself. Today we have discussed 10 counterfashion garments, but there are many more half-forgotten dreams of a better future. To this history, we submit jumpsuit, the ungendered monogarment for everyday wear. Clothes are the interface between self and other, the bridge between individual and society.
For 2 years, we, the members of the Rational Dress Society, have espoused the virtues of counterfashion. We have invited you to join us in an act of solidarity, to wear a jumpsuit, to throw away all of your clothes, to reject choice. But what does it mean to reject choice in the age of Trump?
President-elect Donald Trump has risen to power on the cult of personality, the authoritarian insistence that he alone can fix America. The proof of his power is measured in private property and gilded furniture in the French Rococo style. But Donald Trump is a false god.
Let us return to Ivanka's pink sheath. The promise of sleek sophistication belies the ill-fitting results of a cheaply made garment. The zipper bubbles at the base, the fabric stretches under the bust and puckers at the waist. The illusion of power and wealth gives way to the itchy reality of a polyester dress.
We, the members of the Rational Dress Society, urge you to make a meaningful choice. Cast off the yoke of relentless consumption, stop shopping, and throw away all your clothes. Let us go forward in the spirit of counterfashion and resist. Follow in the footsteps of your ancestors. Wear a jumpsuit, wear a hazmat suit, wear a Zoot suit, or wear nothing at all.
Please, feel free to stay for a moment and make a meaningful choice. The Tutti Bianchis are here with advocacy organizations from across the city, and they need your help.
Thank you, and good night.
everybody hear that? Okay, good. We will also be putting on the official Rational Dress Society playlist. We encourage dancing.